All right.
So I am joined today by Tony Christon-Walker. We had him for the Pride series, and now he's going to be talking about his book, Walking in Truth, Fatherhood. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me again.
Of course, I love talking with you. I really loved our conversation during the Pride series, so it's a pleasure. I first want to tell you congratulations on your book. I personally read it. It's amazing. I loved it. Um, couldn't put it down. Had to actually set times for myself to read it so that I wouldn't stay up till like 3 a.m. Um, so thank you. I guess my first question I want to ask you is what inspired you to write the book?
So the book originally was a way for me to kind of therapize myself. Like I really, there's a big blow up in the book, and after the big blow up, I just had to take some time to process stuff. And I've never been a writer. I have a very dysfunctional relationship with commas. Like I just writing has not been my thing. It's like a bit of a stretch for me. But I started writing it. I was angry when I first started writing it, and I think that's why it took me so long to write it. I started this 8 years ago,
Oh
and
wow.
I started to write it to kind of process my feelings. And I think as I took a stab at it, I finally got those feelings processed, and also I have a very good therapist, and I was able to like unleash. So it started off as like an angry, like I'm gonna get her back, blah blah blah, and then it was like, you know what, this is my story, and I think that it could help someone.
Absolutely. I think it can. I mean, I feel cheesy saying like it's so real, but it's such a real and it's such a real and touching book, I feel like. And I feel like a lot of people, no matter where you come from, can relate to your story. So I think that it's very important that you wrote it, not only for yourself, but like for people who are going to come across it and have a chance to read it.
Being a black gay man and now a black gay author, I don't like putting myself in boxes. I don't like, being this or that, because I'm a little bit of everything. So even in writing the book, like there are people who will see the book and go, "Oh, this is a gay book." It's not a gay book. It's not a black book. It's not a straight book. It's a book about fatherhood. It's a book about life. And I don't think there's not anyone on the planet who can't relate to some parts of that book.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's ultimately a story about a human being, who kind of comes into himself, and it's beautiful in that way. Um, so, without giving too much away, for those who might not have gotten a chance to read yet, um, could you share a little bit about what the book is about and the meaning behind the title?
So the book is really about, like I said in the in the first paragraph, like how someone with good intentions can be used and be okay with it. Marvin Waller, the character in the book, who's based off of my life, could be very angry. He could have been very very bitter with what transpired between him and Vicky, but he kind of like took that and decided to, I'm gonna make some lemonade out of these lemons I was given,
Yeah.
and he's not perfect. He's flawed. He's vulnerable. He does some real jacked up things, but he's human. And like one of my friends who read it said that they liked it because there were no real villains, and I didn't try to vilify people. Just I think sometimes people just make mistakes, and unfortunately, we live in a society in which when we make mistakes, people don't give us the grace to move from those mistakes. Even as a child, our parents tell us, now you gonna tell me the truth about what you just did, and I won't whoop you. Then the next thing you know, you getting beat. It's like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
you told me to tell the truth, and I got. So and it's one of those things where I think that the whole notion of, well, I'll get punished if I tell this truth, doesn't align with the way that Marvin processed life. Because like even with me now, there are a lot of people who don't like me and I really don't care. But there are people who have done things and we made peace. Like, you know, they apologize and I'm like, let's move on. You know, that's and I think that's what the universe, your higher power, whomever wants you to do, be able to just kind of make peace and move on. So, you know, this book was like a way for me to make peace and move on as I try to do in my life.
That's beautiful. Yeah, and talking about not vilifying people, I love that you also didn't vilify the main character, you know, that it was like a process of acceptance and moving and growing from your experiences and your mistakes, or Marvin's mistakes.
Well, you know, the other part about that is the fact that Marvin, you know, is about 50 something years old, slightly balding, and being gay in the 70s and 80s was a totally different experience than it is now. I was on a podcast, like a video, YouTube video the other night with these other three guys who were gay fathers talking about what it looks like. And like, I'm literally like the old man in the room, because I probably could have been one of the guy's fathers myself. And then he has a son. And, you know, the youngest guy with the youngest son was like, you know, I'm wondering how I'm going to tell my son that I'm gay. I'm like, your son's 3 years old. He lives with you and your partner. He knows. Like, there's no point in even commenting out about that at this point. But it's just so many different dynamics. And Marvin did not have a roadmap to gayness. Marvin didn't have any acceptable icons to gayness. Even the people that he knew in his neighborhood that were quote unquote gay were like, you know, not looked upon very, you know, positively, you know. So like he had to figure it out, you
Yeah.
know, and he did the best he could with what he had.
Well, if you said it took you 8 years to write the book, what did you learn in the process, and were there any surprises to I guess, to your writing
Oh
experience?
my God, yeah, there were. I learned a lot in the process. I learned that which more people realize is that when you operate from a place of hurt or anger, you know, the end product is always going to reflect that. It's always going to be some type of flaw in what that end product looks like. You know, even when people do work, even nonprofit work, even just work that we do, when people work from that standpoint of I'm going to get them back or I hate them and I'm going to show you, you know, it's like it just messes it up. And I think once I moved past that part, you know, the book showed me some things about myself. I made a Facebook post a couple of weeks ago about how, you know, there are things that you don't like, that you think you just don't like it. Like, I don't like big crowds of people, or, you know, I don't like vanilla ice cream. And it's things that you just think that you just don't like. And I realized there's some things that I thought I didn't like, but I realized they were a result of childhood trauma. You
Hmm.
know, Marvin was a smart black guy in a mostly white school in the racist South in the 70s, and who was bussed in from a poor black community. And as you know, I explained in the book, you know, he got praised at school because he was the smart, acceptable black guy. You know, but when you came back to the neighborhood, you got punished for doing good. So like even now, like even all the attention that I've gotten in the last year with my job, you know, I do a lot of stuff. And I don't do it for the recognition. I do it because it needs to get done. But you know, you have some people who work from a sense of ego and they want to be seen. So they think that you're doing this to be seen. So it's not like I'm doing it to be seen, but also I try to kind of stay low because people always want to vilify somebody. They want to create a villain. They want to build up a hero so they can tear them down, you know. And that was from my childhood. Like I don't like getting awards. I don't like people telling me I did great. You know, just let me do my work, pay me, and go on about my business. Like that's the way I operate. But that's because of childhood trauma, and I discovered that through writing the book.
Yeah, and well, you're walking in your truth, which is,
Yeah.
the title of your book. And also, I love that it's fatherhood, because I remember in our first talk when I initially met you, through Zoom, and the Pride Project of talking about how you mentor a lot of the youth in the community, and um, seeing early stories of that through Marvin, without giving too much away,
Right.
was
Right.
also kind of really cool for me, and knowing you know, being on the outside of how you mentor younger children. And um, I just thought that was really beautiful. And I'm wondering, like, are there going to be more books past this one?
There are two more that I plan on writing. You know, if this really takes off and I have the time, you know, there are other stories I could tell. You know, and my whole thing about telling stories is kind of like the same way, like for Christians who believe in Jesus, like the parables. So like you can take something out that you can take with you, you know, when you hear these stories. And that was my purpose in even writing that. But like my second one, I've already started working on the outline. It's called Walking in Truth HIV. So like I'm HIV positive. I've been diagnosed for years, and I was relatively young when I was diagnosed. But like even in this book, I mentioned, you know, between Chris and Broderick, I contracted HIV. Broderick was cool with it. That was the only mention of HIV, and people who know me were like, "Well, I expected more HIV, but HIV is not pertinent to me being a father." You know, it was
Yes.
just that in the book where I discussed that there are some aspects that were kind of important, but it wasn't important in telling this particular side of this story. You know, I realize I'm really complex, but but you know, so in that book, I'll explore a lot more of the self-inflicted stigma, the stigma from the community, but also like people who know me now know how I took this thing that most people are afraid and embarrassed to talk about, and I turned it into a tool in which I get to help other people. You know,
Absolutely.
and it's the same thing with the tragedy that happened in the first book. You know, a lot of people would still be bitter. I see people on Facebook all the time lamenting about, you know, people who have been lost, relationships lost, and they choose to be in that state of victimhood. I could be that person. Marvin could be, you know, that angry person, you know, but I choose not to. You know, I chose um, to use that hurt, to refine it, and then use it to help other people who may be hurting.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like I know that you don't, as you say, you don't like a lot of attention brought on you, but you're a great mentor in Birmingham. Like, I mean, even before interviewing for the first time, I had like 5 different people say, like, you have to interview Tony. So, you know, you should take a little pride in that, even though you don't you don't like the spotlight.
You know, it's what I do. I mean, it's kind of like what I do, and I've been through a lot. And again, I could choose to be sad about it. I could choose to, you know, like be angry about it, but I don't. I choose grace. I choose, you know, love, and sometimes, like sometimes it's kind of hard for me, especially here locally, because I think I'm so misunderstood sometimes, and I think part of it is because of my bluntness. Like there are people who really think I'm kind of mean, but literally,
I understand.
I would give you the shirt off my back. Like if I just told
Mhm.
you, I'm going to tell you what I did over the last 48 hours. We have a client lives out in a rural area, a couple hours away from Birmingham, who needs to go to an appointment here in Birmingham. You know, it's so far off that I can't do 4 legs in one day. Like going down there, picking them up, and bringing them back, then taking them back, and then coming home. So normally I will go over the night before, spend the night either at a hotel or with a friend of mine. So I only have to do 3 legs. I can do 3 legs, 4 legs is a bit much. Um, but yesterday their appointment went a little bit long, so I had to spend the night away from home again. You know, but there's no good way to get them to their appointment because transportation is crappy in this state in particular.
Mhm.
But you know, things like that I do that I really like. I'm even regretting even saying that now. But things like that I do that most people like. I'm not doing all that. I don't even know them. And like, what difference does it make? This is the person. You know, one of my favorite quotes is, I think it's John Donne, where he says, "No man is an island entire of itself. We're all part of the continent, a piece of the main." And that's how I see we're all connected. So even like in this time of like this intense racial craziness that we got going on, you know, the coronavirus, like we're all connected, regardless of how you identify, what you look like, who you sleep with. We're all connected, and and the death of any person diminishes us. 160,000 deaths, that just tears us apart. You know, and that's just the way that I choose to live my life. But I think because I'm so it's like straightforward in your face. People don't see the kindness that I also do. And when people recognize it, it kind of softens me a little bit.
Well, I mean, spoiler alert, I'm a lot like you. People have often either really like I've always described myself as someone that people like absolutely love or they just like don't like. But I also blame my mother in a good way because my mom is like that. Like my mom is like a master roaster. Like she walks in and it's like it's Miss Kim hour, but like she has such a soft heart, you know, and I feel like I'm a lot like my mom. Like I'm just very blunt, but I don't mean to be. It's just how I am. But you know, it's always with love and it's always with kindness. And I
Yeah.
feel like people who are like that are probably like the most genuine and soft people. Not to toot my own horn, but
I mean, not to toot our horns together, but I'm a lot like my mother too. My mother is a walking water bucket. Like she cries at everything, and like her, I don't cry when I'm sad. There's one instance I've cried that I know can think of when I've been sad, but I cry when I'm grateful.
yeah.
I cry when other people achieve things. I I cry when I look at my own achievements. You know, so like I'm an emotional Pisces. I tell people that all the time. Like I'm an emotional empathic Pisces. So like I literally feed off other people's emotions. So like I can sense the feeling in the room. But again, I credit a lot of that to my mom. My mom was the cool mom. Like all my friends, like where Miss Joanne at? You know. So that was my life too. So yeah.
Yeah, my mom is she's like a master roaster, but she's like funny and people love her because she's just kind of like, you know, she walks in with her Louis bag and you know, she's like hood bougie. I love her. Um, so let's see. Before I ask one of my favorite questions, do you have any advice for anybody who's trying to write their own book? How did you make connections to take those steps in actually publishing?
Um, Talking to some friends. So like my advice to anybody who wants to write a book is to make sure that it is a coherent story. Um, I hate people who ramble at just till they can't ramble anymore. And I think I've read a lot of books from like new writers like myself when it's like one long sentence, they just rambled it on out. So like take the time to like frame your story. Like, you know, even with me, like deciding the names of the different chapters, like pre-apocalypse, you know, lamentations, you know, be able to kind of like do like a visual map of where you want the story to go and where you want it to end. I will tell you that and follow your first heart. Like I knew that my story would be from beginning to what we think is the end. Oops, let's rewind and go back and then come back. Like that's how I wanted it to go. And I got into some pretty decent arguments with my husband about it because he didn't necessarily like a lot of the cutaways that I did, like the way I introduced characters. You know, like I just introduced this person and then I go, well, you know, Karen was blah, 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 blah. And then I go back to the story. It drove him crazy. But a lot of people like that. And I like movies. So like I saw a movie in my mind. So if you're writing a book, make sure that you can see it as a movie in your mind. You know, when it came to the publishing aspect, you know, YouTube University and Uncle Google and Auntie Amazon, you know, would do the whole thing for you. You know, if you're easily instructed, I mean, that's what I did. There were no professional writers, no professional anything on this. I did this entirely by myself. I had some really good friends who I want to shout out. My good friend, my sister Dee Linson, who wrote the foreword. My friend and my brother Antonio Williams, who wrote the summary. My husband Bobby Christon-Walker, he edited it. We fought, he edited it. And then Lakeisha Warnsley, Kenny Sandiford, and Renee Talbert. These are three friends of mine that I've known at various parts of my life. And having them read it because they knew some of the characters, they knew some of the situations. You know, they were the ones who like, when I first gave it to them, it was like 20 pages. Like, what you think about this? And they were like, oh, this is good. When are you going to finish it? I'm like, you think I should finish it? hell yeah, you should finish it. I'm like, seriously? Yeah. So when you gonna start writing? And I started writing like 5 or 6 pages, and then near the end, I'm like going through like 20 pages a night, just writing. So make sure you got a team in place because you can't do this by yourself.
Is there anything new going on at AIDS Alabama?
Um, well, I just bought a new building,
Oh,
so
wow.
I have a drop-in center down on 6th Avenue where you met me.
Yeah.
Uh, and we do our prep clinic there, during regular times. We have like a computer lab. We have a big open space for people to do like workouts and things like that. We have a small food pantry, a clothing closet. We do all of our testing there. And we're expanding. So we're going to double the space. We're going to be in a 2-story building that's really right across the street from our main office, which is not too far from where you work. And we're actually going to add a Latinx drop-in center to our regular drop-in center, just because we feel like Latinx and also trans community need more places to feel comfortable. But this will be Latinx and including Latinx trans people as well, just because of the language barriers. I'm excited that we're going to have a shower downstairs. You'd be surprised the number of people who need showers. And I'm not saying that in a way of, oh God, they stink, but like there's something about a shower that makes you feel human. And, denying people that basic, necessity. I met a guy, as a matter of fact, I was behind the library about 2 weeks ago, and there was this guy who was sleeping under the little pavilion thing.
Yeah.
And he came up to me and he asked me if I had a cigarette. I'm like, no. So he went back over, he came back, he said, man, I really need some food. And I was like, bro, I ain't got no money. He's like, I don't need money, I need some food. And I was like, okay. I said, stay right here. I'm gonna go to McDonald's and I'll bring some food back. So I went and brought some food back. And sometimes you meet people like that and they're just trying to hustle you. I didn't get that vibe from him. So I brought him the food. He goes, man, I really appreciate that. He says, I got out of jail right before this whole COVID thing. And I thought when I got out, I thought I was in a different world. He was like, there was nobody around. And, I just been sleeping out here because I can't get in touch with any agencies. Nobody's taking new people. And he said, what I miss most is being able to take a shower.
Oh.
And I was, if this was a 3 months, and he goes, well, what do you do? And I told him what kind of work I did. Come to find out, he's actually one of our clients who has been able to re-engage in care because that picnic bitch again. But I made a couple phone calls and we got him into a hotel within an hour.
Oh, wow.
Get him some permanent housing.
Yeah.
So like we're still working, we're still doing the work. And I'm just so grateful. I mean, I'm really grateful for the work that I get to do. I don't wake up in the morning like, oh crap, I gotta go to work. I'm like, oh my God, I get to go to work and they're paying me for this. So it's just one of those things where I found something that I really like doing. So
we would also love to help. Are people like making donations? Like you said that there's a closet, like clothes and like toiletries. Like how do they make donations to that?
They can call me. It's best to call me because we don't have a full-time receptionist right now just because of this whole COVID thing. But my phone number is 205-422-9855. If they want to donate clothing or toiletries and stuff like that, they can call us. We'll pick them up if need be. If you want to make a donation, you can always go to our website, which is www.aidsalabama.org, and there's a donate button. And if you're donating for something that I do, make sure it goes to the prevention department. But yeah, I'm really excited about what we're doing. I'm really excited about the intentionality that we're really engaging the community, and just trying to keep people safe, keep people healthy.
Absolutely. I think one of the best things we can do right now is to realize we're all in this together, no matter where you are, and to be there for each other. I know for me, it's really helped me to reach out. And I've just loved my time today with you. I always love my time with you. You're great. You're such
I
a
can't
beautiful
wait till we
person.
can hug.
I know. You're just so amazing. You're such an electric and lovable person, and so much passion. So I thank you for your time. And for all of our viewers, please, check out Tony's book. It can be purchased on Amazon, correct? Yep.
Yes.
And I'm going to be making a review of it. So.
And if also, John, if someone wants the book, especially if they identify as any marginalized person, I really don't care. Just as a person, we're gonna take the marginalization out. I had a friend, one of my former bosses. She read the book and she bought me 50 copies. That's why. That's when I knew that I was on to something. My boss is more cut. I'm gonna shout out her name. Her name's Regina Van Williams, but she is like cut and dry. If she doesn't like it, she's gonna tell you she don't like it. She'll tell you how to fix it, but she's gonna tell you she don't like it. When I worked with her at the radio station, it was funny because Regina would like get down our throats and then be like, "Hey, you want to go to lunch?" You're like, "I don't want to go to lunch with you." Like she's that person. But I did go to lunch because she always paid. But but she read the book. And she called me the next day to congratulate me on it. She was like, you hit this out of the park. I'm going to do something else for you. I'm going to buy 50 copies of your book for you to give to people who may be struggling. So I have about maybe 25 books left for someone that they can't afford it. If you really can't afford it and you want to read it, again, call me, text me, 205-422-9855, and I'll make sure you get a copy. But I just thought that was just amazing for her to do that.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, we thank you for your time, and I hope you have a blessed day.
The fact that I got up, I'm okay. I'm counting that. Yeah.
Each day's a journey. Well, thank you for your time, Tony.
Thank you, John.